Hey folks, welcome to section 4.2. I'd like to look at some rules, some tips for being able to find certain things on our graph that you're going to be asked to find. You remember from section 4.1 that we have two different kinds of asymptotes. One of them is vertical and one of them is horizontal. So if I give you an equation, how do you find vertical asymptotes? Well, you need to determine the values of x that make the bottom 0. I'm going to write this a number over 0. I don't want a 0 on top. You can have any number you want to on top, but whatever that x is should only make the bottom equal to 0. So I'll say that in this parentheses here, 0 on bottom, not on top. That's how you would find a vertical asymptote. And we'll practice this in class when we are going over section 4.2. Horizontal asymptotes are next. Horizontal asymptotes have nothing to do with a 0 anywhere. Horizontal asymptotes, notice you have to find the degree of the numerator or the top, and you need to find the degree of the denominator or the bottom. So that's what we're going to focus on for finding horizontal asymptotes. We're looking at the degree of the top and we're going to compare it to the degree of the bottom. So I have three parts here. If the degree of the numerator or the top is greater than the degree of the denominator or the bottom, then my horizontal asymptote does not exist. There is no horizontal asymptote if the degree on top is higher than the degree on bottom. If the degree of the numerator is less than the degree of the denominator, if the degree of the top is less than the degree of the bottom, then my horizontal asymptote will occur at the equation y equals 0. Now, the only other option that I have left is if the degrees on top and bottom match each other or are equal to each other. If the degrees are the same on top and bottom, then your horizontal asymptote will occur at the equation y equals, I'm going to have a fraction here. The top of my fraction will be the leading coefficient of the top divided by the leading coefficient of the bottom. The leading coefficient of the top divided by the leading coefficient of the bottom. And that's how you'll find your horizontal asymptotes. Next, how do you find a hole in the graph? You want to determine the values of x that make a 0 on top and on bottom. What makes a 0 on top at the same time that it makes a 0 on bottom? Lastly, let's talk intercepts. How do I find an x-intercept? Determine what makes the top 0. What makes the top 0? My y-intercept, we've done this before, so this should not be a surprise to you. Let all of your x's equal 0 and simplify or solve for the y value. Now, if I wanted to put this into a very nice, concise list, we want to talk about vertical asymptotes. Vertical asymptotes are what makes the bottom 0. What makes the bottom 0? 2, horizontal asymptotes. This all goes back to degrees. 3, holes in the graph. Holes are whatever make a 0 on top and on bottom. 4, x-intercepts. What makes only the top 0? and 5 y-intercepts, let x equal 0 and solve. And that is a very nice, succinct, concise list of the 5 things that this page goes over. We'll talk about these extensively in class.